Hello. What is up? I'm very psyched on this one, you guys. Oh, I got a pop filter. Psyched on my new pop filter. Tell you that right now. Although I got to find a much better system for this. Way better. All right, let me get the chat open. What's up, everybody? As per usual. Oh, there I am. Oh, man. We got to bring this down. How do I bring my microphone down? Get it. Oh, no. Oh, right. I figured out that my garbage is the perfect height. Can we hear me? Can I get confirmation that I am audible? Would love to be audible during this call, webinar. It's not a call. Where's my friend Keely? Keely's not here. She can't protect me. I can hear you. Oh, excellent. Input device is the correct microphone. Awesome. All right, as per usual, I'm going to open the floor up for the first 5 to 10 minutes to just questions. Gonna let everyone get their questions in. If you want to skip, if you're watching the YouTube replay, I'm gonna get into the presentation at 7:06. If you guys that are here first want to ask me some questions, you totally can. If not, I'm gonna get right into it. And then I will just take out what I just said. If not, no worries. All right. No, we're all right. No questions, so I'm just gonna get right into this and just start presenting. So, tonight's topic is mindset. And, we all know that climbing is a mental game, no matter the discipline. Successfully climbing anything depends on an intentional mental approach as much as physical preparation. And understanding and cultivating a specific mindset for the climb can be everything. It's a huge asset, or for some people, it is your biggest obstacle. So I do want to say throughout this, I'm going to cover a bunch of different mental topics that I think are basically imperative to know as an athlete. And if anyone has any questions as I'm going through, please just ask those. Just ask your questions as I'm going. I will get to those at the end if I have time. If not, then I'll answer those privately if you don't feel comfortable asking them. I know that this is a personal topic, your mental game and your climbing, but I'm here to help in any way I can. And then with this, I wrote a lot for this. I actually wrote about 21 pages. I put a lot of time into preparing for this presentation, so I am fully, understanding that I'm not going to get through it all in this call, and I'm going to probably make this a two-parter if people want to hear more. If not, you can always just reach out. I'm happy to share more about this with you guys. So I'm going to get right into it. So I've got a script, just like the last Q&A. I'm going to try to follow my script as closely as possible. I wrote out a lot this time, so here we go. Like I said, climbing is as much of a mental game as it is a physical one. Whether you're delicately balancing your way up a technical slab or powering through a steep overhang, the success of your ascent often hinges not just on your physical abilities, but on your mental approach. Understanding and cultivating the right mindset, which you might currently do, or you might not, or you might not even think about it. Some people carry in baggage into their sessions from the day. Some people don't even have the time to think about what it is that their brain is doing to them or for them during the session. But that mindset is either the the most helpful thing that you can possibly have in your climbing and a superpower, or it is the bane of your existence and is the reason that you are possibly not meeting your full potential or having a lot of heartache and headache. So there is a mindset dichotomy, and that is the fixed and the growth mindset. The concept of a fixed and growth mindset, which was popularized by psychologist Carl Dweck, offers a fundamental framework for understanding how climbers approach the challenges of sport. Those of us with a fixed mindset believe that their abilities are static, limited to what is innate. For climbers, this might manifest as avoiding climbs that challenge their perceived weaknesses. Everyone knows that person. Or feeling defeated after failures. This might resonate with you guys. Or viewing them as evidence of their limited ability. On the other hand, a growth mindset views one's abilities as adaptable, something that one may develop through concentrated effort and perseverance. Climbers with a growth mindset are eager to analyze their efforts after they fall to identify areas of improvement and expand their climbing knowledge. Challenges are not only expected, but welcomed by them, all in the spirit of continuous improvement rather than a threatened ego. Now, transitioning to a growth mindset is shifting from fixed to growth. It begins with self-awareness. Before you can make meaningful change, you need to identify the mental roadblocks holding you back. This means recognizing the internal dialogue that creeps in when things get hard, making excuses, avoiding routes that expose your weaknesses, or feeling deflated when someone else climbs something that you couldn't. These reactions are not signs of failure. They are opportunities for awareness. When you catch yourself reacting this way, pause and examine the belief beneath it. Are you afraid of looking bad? Do you assume your abilities are static? Cultivating this awareness is the first step in shifting your mindset. So just paying attention to your mind. What are the thoughts that you're having? That is the only way that you can begin a shift if you want one. Once you're aware of those limiting beliefs, the next step is to reframe your language. The way you talk to yourself, both silently and out loud, shapes your perception of your capabilities. Saying, "I'm terrible at overhangs," reinforces that belief, reinforces the belief that it can't change. But shifting your language to, "I haven't mastered the skills for overhang yet," opens the door for growth. That one word, guys, yet, signals to your brain that improvement is possible. Over time, consistent use of growth-oriented self-talk literally rewires neural pathways, reinforcing motivation, learning, and resilience. It may seem subtle, but this shift in language is a powerful tool for transformation, both on and off the wall. In climbing, and really in any high-skill pursuit, the process is not the path to mastery. It is mastery. Every attempt, every fall, every micro adjustment of your hips or fingertips becomes data. Every attempt, every fall, every single one. Each rep rewires your nervous system, reshapes your emotional relationship with pressure, and deepens your understanding of movement. When climbers talk about being in the zone, they're describing a state where the process fully absorbs them, where this is no gap between doing and being. Psychologically, this approach draws from self-determination theory, which says that motivation is most powerful when it is intrinsic, driven by curiosity, competence, and autonomy. When your focus is on the outcome, sending the route, your satisfaction is externally anchored and fragile. But when your focus shifts to the journey, what you learn, how you adapt, how your breathing stays calm under duress, you create an internal motivational system that renews itself. Success becomes something you experience in the moment, not something you chase after. Outcome-based mindsets often create emotional volatility. I'm sure a lot of us can relate to this, okay? That emotional volatility, elation after ascend, deflation after a fall. The process-oriented climber, however, lives in a steady psychological rhythm. The outcome is data. The attempt is growth. They're not driven by fear or failure, fear of failure or the need to prove themselves, but by curiosity. What will this teach me today? This shift not only builds mental resilience, but also produces more consistent psychological performance as cortisol levels stabilize and attentional control improves under pressure. Now, when you climb with a process-oriented mindset, your brain interprets every rep as an opportunity to refine prediction and response. Neuroscientifically, this is error-based learning, the way the brain builds efficient motor pathways. Each fall gives your cerebellum new data for recalibrating timing, tension, and proprioception. Each success reinforces neural circuits that will later fire automatically under pressure. This means that focusing on the process isn't just philosophical, it's biologically strategic. A process climber might fall in the same crux 10 times, but see each fall as a different experiment, adjusting breathing, pacing, or grip type, or beta, or tactics, or strategies. Okay, this curiosity-driven engagement activates dopamine systems linked to learning and motivation. On the other hand, outcome fixation suppresses dopamine when the send doesn't happen, creating frustration and disengagement. Over time, this difference compounds. Process-focused athletes develop grit and flow, while outcome chasers burn out or plateau, or just perpetually deal with their frustrations and never see that rate of improvement that the process-focused athletes develop. Now, micro goals, this is huge, guys, are the backbone of this mindset. Instead of defining success as send or fail, something very black and white that a lot of us do, and it's not our fault, it's kind of the design of the sport, you define it as a measurable progress, executing the crux move cleanly, improving precision on a toe hook, or resting more effectively mid-route. Each micro goal offers a quick feedback loop, small wins that trigger dopamine release, reinforcing motivation. This creates a powerful positive feedback cycle. Attention, improvement, reward, sustained focus. That's why climbers who emphasize process often report feeling more energized and satisfied, even after hard days. They've conditioned their nervous system to associate effort with reward, not just success with reward. This is something I tell a lot of my clients. And it's hard as a coach when you've got people that come to you that want to see success, that want to accomplish specific goals. You almost have to, one thing I do almost every day is trying to undo this, extrinsic focus that a lot of people found as their impetus to coming to me. You want to get an objective done. So every small indicator that you may not be moving towards that objective, a bad day in the gym, or maybe you don't send the next grade when you thought you were ready to in your projecting session or your board session, or even just not hanging a little bit more weight when you may think that you could be because the plan suggests there might be a weight increase coming that you should do. All of these little things are part of the process and they are potential outcomes, but when you base your happiness, your self-image, and your self-worth, or your time spent, my time is being spent so that I can get this thing done, then you're missing out on, one, the true accelerator, which is this process-oriented thinking, and you miss out on all the joy that you could be having during the process, which again is a perpetual cycle. It's one circle. Enjoy the process, love it, improve faster, enjoy that process, right? Keeps going around and around. So the process orientation, like I'm just saying right now, also protects your mental health. Outcome attachment breeds self-judgment, like I'm not strong enough or I wasted the session. But process attachment builds psychological safety. You can fail without identity threat because failure is framed as part of your deliberate practice, not proof of inadequacy. Over time, this leads to what sports psychologists call adaptive perfectionism, a drive for excellence without the crippling anxiety of needing to be perfect. Now, how do we apply the process mindset? Here are some actionable tools we can use. You want to build structure into your sessions that reward curiosity and iteration. These are things that I've done in the past. These are things that I do with clients. These are things that truly help. I hope that you're showing up here because you want to put an end to the mental struggles that you have. These are the things that you actually have to do, like setting intentional micro goals. Before each session, pick 1 or 2 process-oriented targets. This can be physical, like maintain shoulder engagement through the roof, or posterior chain engagement on the overhang, on the board. Technical, like stick the dead point before my body begins moving away from the wall. Or mental, breathe evenly through the crux, or commit more to this move. Write these down, or say them out loud to anchor your focus to. Another way is to reflect after each attempt. Instead of labeling your go as good or bad, use descriptive language. What did you feel? What changed? What would you adjust? This reflection strengthens metacognition, and that metacognition is huge to keep in mind in all of your training and other things in life. The brain's ability to think about its own processes, which leads to faster learning. Number 3, and guys, all of this is done in your journal, okay? This is the most effective tool in any of your mindset training, aside from deliberate focus at the start of your session. But the journal will only make this easier, tenfold. Number 3 is vary your focus, and this one helped me a ton on long projects, and I constantly use this, that span many sessions. Rotate between different micro themes each session. Also, sneaky fact, this is silly fun. I love doing this. It's just an amazing little tool that adds spice to your climbing life. Body tension could be the focus one day. Pacing could be the sole focus of another. Breathing or visualization on another. This variability keeps your brain engaged and reinforces different neural patterns, preventing stagnation. Another thing that this does is helps you close in on projects from multiple angles. Sure, maybe the beta is coming together. You're trying to learn each movement, find the best, foot, whatever sequence you want, but you're maybe not paying attention to this entire avenue of your climbing that could see massive improvements on this project. You could do this and this and this, and now you're raising all of the bars faster. And you're not looking for that tiny little bit of improvement in your tension on this boulder, but now you're looking for your breathing. And maybe your breathing was down here, and now you can bring it up to here. You can see bigger improvements when you switch up the focus and keep a more positive mindset and learn more. Number 4 is detach identity from outcome. Whether you send or not, end the session by identifying what you learned. That is your journal reflection. This practice, known in cognitive psychology as reappraisal, rewires how your limbic system associates difficulty with value. Over time, struggle becomes synonymous with progress rather than pain. And lastly, and in my opinion most importantly, celebrate incremental wins. Acknowledge small improvements out loud or in your journal. I like to do it out loud always. The act of consciously recognizing progress releases dopamine and serotonin, neurochemicals that promote persistence and reinforce learning networks. You will also be extremely surprised how many things that you are doing well in sessions when you start saying them aloud and writing them down. I know I've talked to you guys about this before, but banking every success is the most powerful confidence builder and uplifter that you can do in your climbing. The best climbers I've ever climbed with talk positively more than anyone I know. They are constantly saying things that felt good, felt right, that they did well, they're feeling so strong. If you guys read my favorite book, I know I've said it before, it's Mindset by Jerry Moffatt, or Mastermind by Jerry Moffatt. It's all about the mindset in climbing. It will completely change the way that you look at all of climbing and your own mind during sessions, and how you go about recording data and using your mind as a tool rather than something that you're at the whim of, the helpless whim of. And banking successes is a big part of that book. He talks a lot about, it's like an entire chapter about writing down every little thing, every opportunity you get. Okay, now I want to go into a little bit of the theory here that helps you really understand why I'm saying these things and the magnitude of it. Process focus cultivates what psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, it took me so long to learn how to pronounce that, called flow. We all know flow. It's the immersive state where challenge and skill are perfectly matched. In flow, the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for self-criticism and time awareness, down-regulates, allowing automaticity and intuition to guide movement. Process climbers reach this state more easily because they focus on how they're climbing, not how it looks or what it means. You're attuned to the sensory moment, skin texture, breath rhythm, body angle. That awareness keeps them grounded and fluid under pressure. Additionally, the Yerkes-Dodson law, a principle describing the relationship between arousal and performance, shows that moderate, focused arousal produces peak output. For those of you who are not familiar with arousal, it's another word for excitement. I know it can be used as a sexual term. That is not how we're using it in this context. When you obsess over results, anxiety spikes arousal beyond optimal levels, narrowing attention and impairing fine motor control. Many of you may feel this when you are sitting at the start of a project and feel anxiety about how this attempt could be the send go. You might even notice shakes or butterfly in your stomach that negatively impact your climbing. That is something that I dealt with for a while. I had about a 2-year period where when I would sit down at the start of a boulder, I would have performance anxiety if I felt like I was close and it could be the attempt, and I could not clear my mind. I couldn't narrow my focus. I couldn't enter flow. I would constantly underperform, and it drove me nuts. And that's actually around the same time when I started working with my first sports psychologist. But when you immerse yourself in the process, you maintain the ideal balance of alertness and calm. You're physiologically tuned to perform. Finally, from a long-term development perspective, process focus fosters deliberate practice, the structured feedback-driven repetition that drives expertise. The famous psychologist Anders Ericsson's research in skill acquisition shows that experts spend less time performing and more time in iterative refinement, which in climbing is the process of trying a move, analyzing what went wrong, tweaking your beta or body position, and repeating. Each iteration sharpening efficiency, precision, and control until mastery emerges. Process climbers do exactly this. They treat every session as rehearsal, every movement as a data point. That's why mastery is never an accident. It's the byproduct of a brain trained to love learning as much as sending. And that is one of my goals, always, is to love learning. I did a deep dive into my fulfillment a while ago, and I find the most fulfillment in the sport from improving, learning new things, knowing that I am developing my skills and moving forward, and not just staying the same and achieving arbitrary tasks that I've set for myself, like sending that climb or hitting a new benchmark hang and getting a new weight. That stuff's great, but it's learning and seeing improvements in the areas that I'm engaging in constantly, which is, for me, it's my movement, or for my strategies and tactics. I love seeing improvements in the things that I really care about and find a lot of fulfillment in the sport. So I think it's important to really do a reflection and find what it is that you love most about the sport and pay a little bit more attention about seeing improvements there and protecting that. Now, confidence as the foundation. Like I was just talking about building confidence with the successes. Confidence in climbing is not just a feeling. It's a cognitive and physiological state built through consistent experiences of competence, risk, and recovery. In psychology, confidence aligns closely with what another renowned psychologist, Albert Bandura, called self-efficacy. the belief that you can execute the actions necessary to achieve a specific goal. This distinction is crucial. Self-efficacy isn't about thinking, I'm good. It's about knowing through evidence that your actions influence outcomes. It's the difference between hope and trust. And climbers who develop it don't need to convince themselves they can perform. They know they can because they've proven it to themselves repeatedly. In climbing, confidence is the bridge between preparation and execution. It's what allows your body to move fluidly through fear zones and your mind to remain calm under uncertainty. It's what turns I think I can into I know I can. Without confidence, even elite climbers crumble under pressure, not from lack of strength or skill, but from internal hesitation. I'm sure we've all felt that. Confidence governs decision-making under duress, when to commit to a dynamic move, when to trust a smear, when to stay calm on a high ball or a run out. It's the steady voice that cuts through panic and reorients you to the present moment. Now, there's an anatomy to confidence. Psychologically, confidence operates as a feedback system. It's built through a cycle of exposure, effort, success, reflection. Each time you face a challenge, exert effort, and succeed, even marginally, your brain stores that as evidence of capability. Guys, just understanding this gives you more power over your mind. These micro successes create what neuroscientists call confidence neurons. Strengthens synaptic patterns between the prefrontal cortex, which is your planning and decision making, and the limbic system that I mentioned before, which is your emotion and motivation. This rewiring transforms uncertainty into self-assurance over time. However, this process only works if it's grounded in reality. When confidence detaches from feedback, when climbers inflate their sense of skill without testing it, it turns into what we all call cockiness. And cockiness rejects data. Confidence collects it. Cockiness assumes success. Confidence prepares for it. Cockiness falters under pressure, and confidence adapts. The difference lies in awareness. Cockiness is blind optimism. Confidence is informed optimism. From a performance psychology perspective, authentic confidence has 3 intertwined components. Number 1 is cognitive confidence, the intellectual belief in your preparation, knowledge, and strategy. 2 is emotional confidence, the ability to regulate arousal and remain composed under stress. 3 is physical confidence, the embodied trust that your movement, timing, and coordination will hold when it counts. Elite climbers train all 3 simultaneously. They refine their technical understanding, which is cognitive, practice mindfulness and breath regulation, which is emotional, and they repeatedly expose themselves to progressive challenges, physical. When these components align, the nervous system enters a state of psychophysiological coherence, steady heart rate variability, calm focus, and fluid motor control. That's the state most people describe as flow. Building genuine self-belief. I just want to remind everybody that while we're going through this, please feel free to type in any of the questions that you have about anything I'm saying or anything that you've been going through personally. You don't have to wait to the end. You can just leave your questions in the chat, and I'm happy to answer anything at the end. True confidence is earned, not declared. It emerges from consistent evidence, small wins that prove to your nervous system that effort leads to improvement. These wins act as reinforcement signals in the brain's dopaminergic system, strengthening motivation and learning pathways. Every time you consciously acknowledge progress, even something as small as a cleaner sequence or steadier breathing, your brain links that behavior with reward. Over time, this creates a robust internal loop of effort, feedback, reward, which makes hard work inherently satisfying. That's why confident climbers tend to be more consistent, because their motivation is self-sustaining. This process mirrors what cognitive behavioral psychologists refer to as mastery experiences, the single most effective way to build lasting confidence. You can read affirmations, visualize success, or listen to hype songs, but if your nervous system hasn't experienced mastery, the belief won't stick. Each time you break a self-imposed limit, even slightly, you give your brain data that says, I can do hard things. That's the root of self-belief. That's why when you guys send a project or get on something that you think is really hard for you and surprise yourself and do it, it makes you feel really good, really strong, really skilled, and makes you psyched to get on something else because you believe that you can do it. You're excited about the opportunity to do another thing like that because it felt great and you are now more confident in yourself. And the more that you pay attention to the correct things, the more these things happen. It's all one beautiful cycle, guys. Now, I want to get back to journaling successes because writing down your wins, no matter how small, transforms implicit progress into explicit awareness. It engages the hippocampus, which consolidates memory and meaning, turning transient moments into long-term confidence. Over weeks and months, your journal becomes tangible proof of growth, a psychological anchor you can return to when doubt creeps in. This practice is especially powerful during plateaus, when progress feels invisible. Reviewing your log reactivates the emotional memory of competence. Guys, try using this simple structure that I use. I just write down what worked, like I controlled my breathing through the crux, what I learned relaxing before the final move gave me more precision, and why it matters. This shows I can stay composed under pressure. Now, you don't have to write out what worked, what I learned, why it matters. You can have that just written down somewhere and write this out just as a sentence or a couple of sentences. I do this in the reflection at the end of most of my sessions, virtually all of them recently, and it just builds another layer of confidence. You know, these reflections don't just record success, they fully integrate it into your identity. And it just makes me, so much more apt to do the right things during my sessions, so much more consistent with good habits, and I attack climbs with that level of confidence and just more prowess. I feel like I'm more prepared every time I show up. Visualization is another confidence multiplier. It's one of the most powerful tools for developing genuine confidence because it trains the same neural pathways used in actual performance. Something really cool is that functional MRI studies showed that when you vividly imagine executing a move, feeling the tension, sensing the texture, feeling your breath, your motor cortex activates nearly identically to when you physically perform it. This primes your nervous system for real-world execution. The key is actually dual visualization, which is practicing both ideal performance and what's called resilient recovery. Ideal performance is, you visualize yourself climbing with precision, calm, and focus. Feel your body moving efficiently through each sequence. This builds that motor fluency and primes your positive expectation. You see yourself doing a climb, you feel everything, and you sequence it. You watch yourself on the wall. Now that resilient recovery is another level beyond that. This is what a lot of the elite do, especially in competition. I used to do this a lot. Or like a high ball. Equally important as visualizing setbacks, which is slipping on a hold, feeling pumped, or losing balance, or having your beta not go to plan when you can't back down and try again, and then calmly recovering. This form of stress inoculation training conditions your brain to stay composed when things go wrong, because it's quite literally already experienced recovery in your mind. Like I said, I think high balls, or if you guys are competitors, or even on the rope on an on-site, this is something that you should start sequencing, just baking in, even just going through it once or twice. It's kind of like the plan A, plan B theory that I've described in root reading before, which is where you identify the setback that could happen, and there's a million of those, and have the script for when it does, and visualize yourself making the recovery. A good example is, I know that I've got a smear up ahead at the top of the high ball. If it starts sliding, take a deep breath, relax, drop my heel. Or if I know there's a tiny foot above and I am nervous that my knee might shake, practice down climbing a move, taking a couple of breaths, relaxing, and then replacing the toe. It's going to calm your nerves and allow for much more fluent performance when you get there and actually experience these things, which are sometimes inevitable. You're always going to have a mess up. Well, hopefully not always, but things don't always go to plan. This approach strengthens self-regulatory circuits in the prefrontal cortex, allowing you to stay solution-oriented under real stress. It also reduces the fear response generated by the amygdala, meaning that the next time you face a sketchy top-out or bold move, your brain interprets it as familiar, not threatening. And this is how constant highballers can do it and not freak out, because they know what's going to happen, and if it does, they actually have a plan. They've planned it, or they've been there before and planned it before. So they don't have to stress about these things. It gets stored. You can also integrate affirmations into your visualization sequence. Short, realistic statements tied to sensory experience, like, I breathe through pressure, or I trust my fingers. Pairing language with imagery builds cross-modal encoding, making the belief both verbal and embodied. So the competence loop. Confidence and competence feed each other in a reinforcing cycle. 1. You take action with some belief. 2. You succeed in a small way. 3. You acknowledge and record that success. 4. Confidence rises, prompting higher effort. And 5. Effort builds greater competence. This cycle is self-perpetuating, like I said before, but it requires your attention. If you skip step 3, acknowledgement, the loop weakens. If you inflate step 1 without real evidence, you create delusion instead of confidence. True self-belief sits in the balance, informed by experience, strengthened by repetition, and anchored in honest reflection. Neuroscientifically, this loop engages the reward prediction error system. When effort leads to slightly better results than expected, the brain releases dopamine, teaching you that challenge is rewarding. The next time you face a similar challenge, that neural pattern fires faster and stronger, accelerating learning and reinforcing that confidence. This is why climbers who actively celebrate progress improve more consistently than those who only chase grades. Now, there is a psychological payoff. Confidence reduces that cognitive load that you might be feeling. When you trust your preparation, your brain frees up working memory that would otherwise be spent second guessing. So it's a double whammy. You not only gain more confidence, but you also relieve yourself of stress. You can devote that bandwidth to executing nuanced motor patterns, managing your breathing, or adapting mid-sequence. This mental efficiency underlies why confident climbers appear more present. Their attention isn't divided between fear and action. From a stress physiology perspective, confidence also modulates your hormonal response. When self-belief is high, your body produces less cortisol and more catecholamines, like adrenaline and noradrenaline, in optimal ratios. These improve reaction time, grip strength, and energy mobilization without triggering panic. In other words, confidence literally alters your biochemistry to make you perform better under stress and stronger. Perhaps more importantly, genuine confidence builds psychological resilience. When you truly believe you can adapt, failure stops being identity threatening. A fall becomes feedback, not humiliation. This is the hallmark of elite performers across all sports. Their confidence is not brittle, it's flexible. It bends under pressure and reforms stronger. Now in practice, how do we do this? Start small and you prove big. Begin each session with achievable goals to prime early wins. Then build difficulty gradually. You guys can do this in your warm-ups. Create yourself, this is the way that I like to do this, is create yourself a couple of moves. Moves that you know are going to be fun, slightly challenging, but doable. And set a simple goal. Send the moves. Flash the boulder I made up, in style. If you make something that you know you can do, you are more often than not going to do it, okay? Just make sure to truly make it doable, and you will feel good about it. I love this part of my warm-up. I have fun making up the climbs, I learn more about route setting and movement, and I build more confidence every session. Just start small. Record every success. No win is too minor. Write it, speak it, or tell it to your climbing partner. Your brain treats acknowledgement as reinforcement, so just acknowledge it in any way you can. 3, visualize daily. Spend at least 2 to 3 minutes seeing yourself climb with composure, both when everything goes right and when it doesn't. I can promise you guys, if you just added 2 minutes of visualizing yourself on a wall, climbing beautifully, smoothly, include some techniques, look at a sequence of something, and feel yourself climbing it. But look at yourself. Imagine a video of yourself. You're going to strengthen your ability to visualize, and you are going to build a new identity as someone that moves beautifully, and of course, add in a couple of scenarios where your foot picks off and you breathe it off, place it, screw it back in, and move beautifully. Not freak out and panic and start over gripping and hold your breath. Visualize the right things and you will do the right things. Debrief weekly. This is just an easy one. You should already be doing this. Review your journal to extract any patterns. Notice how evidence of growth accumulates. So just reflecting in your journal, looking at the data that you write down. The more you see the things that you wrote down that are positive, or any trends that are positive, and of course, identifying things that are not positive, that are negative, can help you, improve your systems. But looking for the things that are positive are going to consistently build that confidence. Stay humble and stay curious is my 5th one. The most confident climbers are usually the most curious because confidence and learning share the same neural roots, belief in the ability to improve. So that can be showing up to the session and having a goal of deep diving into a move in a different way, staying focused on the project, trying new methods, forcing yourself to go back to something that you tried before for the sake of trying to learn something new or just to experiment. Doesn't matter. As long as you put in time in the practice of staying curious and not just pursuing the next victory, it's going to build. Okay, I'm on to the second section. I'm going to go through the first part of this, and then I'm going to answer questions because I don't want to let this run too long. I don't want to have it be too disjointed. I like to keep it in 2 main parts. But I'll just read the part about learning through failure and building mental resilience. In climbing and nearly every high-performance domain, progress is never linear. You'll encounter plateaus, regressions, and days when your mind unravels before your fingers do. I know my career has been full of these, okay? Plenty, more than your average person. And I think that those are why that I've learned so much and can help others. The athletes who last, who grow, who truly reach their potential, are not the ones who avoid failure, but those who have learned to metabolize it, to turn every setback into fuel for adaptation. This is mental resilience, not a hardening of the mind, but a flexible strength that allows you to bend, absorb, and come back stronger. In psychology, resilience is often defined as the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, or stress. But that definition doesn't capture the full picture. True resilience isn't just about recovery, it's about post-traumatic growth, a concept introduced by psychologists Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun, in the idea that challenges, when approached with reflection and purpose, don't just restore you to baseline. They elevate your perspective, increase your capacity, and rewire your brain to perform better under future stress. In climbing, this means using failure as your training partner. It means learning to extract feedback from frustration, data from disappointment, and direction from all of the difficulty that you face. All of your failure, all of the things that you guys think is failure, those are your opportunities for your biggest successes. So you can't have your world crumble down when you experience them. If you don't have those, you miss the biggest opportunities for growth and learning. Now, learning through failure is a skill. You need to learn how to reframe failure as this opportunity, because falling off the wall doesn't just test your strength, it tests your story. The story you tell yourself about what that fall means determines whether it weakens or strengthens you. In sports psychology, this process is called cognitive appraisal. How you interpret a challenge shapes your emotional and physiological response to it. A climber with a fixed mindset interprets failure as evidence of inadequacy. I'm not strong enough for this. That's what they might say. A climber with a growth mindset interprets the same event as feedback. They might say, I now know exactly where to focus my next phase of training. This reframing shifts activity in the brain from the amygdala, which is fear and threat detection, to the prefrontal cortex, which is logic and planning, which lowers your stress hormones and increases cognitive control. In practical terms, it means you stay calm, focused, and analytical rather than defensive or ashamed. That's something that I think a lot of climbers in this world, in today's world, feel is ashamed. A lot of us see the people that are much better than us, and we feel like we are inferior. And we feel like we should be stronger, or we should be more skilled, or we should be more confident, we should be all these things. Well, your story is ever evolving, and you're constantly improving as long as you're seeing all of the opportunities along the way and capitalizing on them. Just paying attention to all of these things that you don't have or are short in and looking at those as opportunities, because that's what they are, and not taking that feedback that you get by seeing somebody else better than you as I am lesser than, and instead seeing as, wow, what an awesome opportunity I have to change what I'm doing and see potential results like that. That's going to be your motivation and the drive to keep going and keep going with happiness and hunger. Reframing failure also builds what psychologists call emotional granularity, the ability to precisely label your emotions. Instead of a vague, I feel bad, you can differentiate between frustration, disappointment, or confusion. This skill activates the ventrolateral prefrontal cortex, helping you regulate emotion and turn discomfort into clarity. Over time, your brain learns to associate falling not with shame, but with opportunity, a massive psychological advantage in climbing, where failure is inevitable and frequent. As we all know, failure as data and not drama. From a neurological standpoint, failure provides the most potent stimulus for neuroplastic change. When you fail, your brain triggers a prediction error, a signal indicating that the outcome didn't match your expectation. This signal releases dopamine, not as a reward from your success, but as a motivator to adjust and improve the next attempt. In other words, your brain learns fastest when you fail. If you can learn to treat failure as an experiment, an information gathering process, you unlock one of the most powerful mechanisms for skill development known in neuroscience. That is error-based learning. We talked about it before and it's back. Every time you analyze what went wrong and apply a new strategy, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with adaptability and motor refinement. Over time, this builds neural resilience, the capacity of your brain to pivot quickly, retain lessons, and respond with greater efficiency under stress. Now, the key is detachment from emotional over-identification. Failure is not you, it's data. Once you can separate your performance from your self-worth, you become free to examine it objectively. And objectivity is the foundation of growth. I'm going to save the rest of this for next time. And if you guys have any questions on anything that I wrote down and presented tonight, please drop it in the chat. If it's personal and you'd rather send me an email, I'm going to put my email right here in the chat. I'm happy to answer any of you guys' questions. And I'm going to answer yours, Emily, for sure. Okay. Emily says, hey Charlie, I notice that sometimes when I pull onto my project for a send go, my mind is quiet, but then I get this tiny mind wobble or whisper in my head with worry about whether or not I will succeed. In the past, I just keep climbing on and let it fade away. It usually just goes away. This has worked for me in the past. I'm curious how you would approach the situation. Do you have any strategies? Yes, Emily, absolutely. Well, what's happening is you are losing your presence in the moment. So that whisper that's saying, I might or might not succeed on this climb. That's a prediction of what might happen. That's in the future, right? That is not the present moment. So you're trying to leave what is currently happening, which is I'm sitting at the base of this climb. I'm holding these start holds. I'm setting up for this move. So your brain can only think of one thing with full focus at a time. It can take that thought that you may have as an intrusive thought, and it can store it and save it for later, and it can even be aware that it's there, but it can't give it full focus. So while you do say that you keep climbing and let it fade away, I'm sure that fade is happening because your focus is now on something that's much louder, which is the moves that you're on. Some people can't even really get rid of it and have it fade away. It stays there, it lingers, and it bounces back and forth. It's, I hit this hold, all right, my foot there, okay, here I'm going. Oh man, when I hit it, this is when I start to pump out. Oh geez, and that thought comes right back. So what you can do is practice your presence. That comes from, I think best in this sport is your anchoring to your surrounding atmosphere, which is, what can I hear? What can I see? What can I smell? What can I taste? What's happening in my body? What can I feel? What are my feet doing? Wiggle my toes. What do my toes feel like? Can I feel my pinky toe? Can I feel this? What part of the holds can I feel? What's this feel like? Does this feel good? Okay. And just choosing to come back. When it's inevitable, Emily, that you're going to have those thoughts come in and come out. You spend time thinking about it, right? I'm here to ideally learn and climb on this boulder, but I do have the goal of getting to the top of it. That is why I'm doing this learning process, why I'm engaging in this boulder or this route. So it would be natural that I have the thought of, man, maybe I will or maybe I will not succeed, because those are technically your two black and white options in the name of that goal, right? I stepped on the wall, I did not do the climb. I step on the wall, I did the climb. So natural. But what you can do is allocate time where you sit down at the boulder, you don't pull on, and you simply get present. You do a rep of calming down, focusing on your breathing. When that thought comes in, stop. Breathe that thought out. What do I want to focus on? You have your choice. Are there some beautiful, beautiful bird songs while you're sitting at the base of your outdoor boulder? Can you hear, the wind blowing? Is there a little animal, like a little squirrel moving? Are your friends breathing? Are your friends moving around? Is there someone at a neighboring boulder? What can you hear? Tuning in to those senses empowers your ability to be more present in your surroundings and removes that the anxiety that you have around the attempt. I use that constantly. I used to do, it would be a flush out, which is what I used to do during my competitions, which is you take in as much as you can in the present moment. You try to get in, for me, this was a technique I used with my sports psychologist, which was you take in as much from the physical surrounding space, you tune into your body, you feel the most powerful spot in your body, which for me was always my lats and my back muscles. You tune into those, and then you flush everything out with a mantra. So I would always say the same phrase, and that would send chills down my whole head. Oh man, I'm literally getting them now just from thinking about it. And that would release any of the other thoughts. It would put me right in the moment. I would flush out all the things that I don't want, and I would get present in the moment. Hope that answered the question. Joy's got a good question coming, I can tell. Okay, Joy, can you describe how to train all three types of confidence simultaneously? Cognitive confidence, emotional confidence, physical confidence in individual training sessions. Okay, well, that is a good question. Including each one You've got cognitive confidence, which is that intellectual belief in your preparation, knowledge, and strategy. The emotional confidence, which is the ability to regulate arousal and remain composed under stress. And physical confidence, the embodied trust that your movement, timing, coordination will hold when it counts. So this confidence really comes from your experiences. So if we're talking about the cognitive confidence, that is the belief in your preparation, knowledge, and strategy. That can be reflecting on moments and setting up better systems that you want to practice with your, what I was just talking about, right? Like that system of becoming more aware and present. So doing those reps, the more of those reps that you do of doing like a flush out or becoming more present and managing your thoughts, that's going to be another, a mark in your belief of your preparation. Your knowledge, that can be, what you know about coming quite literally reflecting on notes from this call. Your confidence in knowing that I have tools that I know that will manage these situations and that can give me more power in these situations. I know that you said individual training sessions, but it's just including these maybe as a small part of the session. I just that session that I described with Emily, that could be in the gym. I think maybe what I just mentioned may be how could you include that? It would be reflecting on these notes and maybe writing down things that you remembered and that you used in your journal. Maybe I remembered that Charlie talked about the intrinsic motivator of focusing on being in love with the process and finding my joy from experimenting and trying new things and teaching my brain how to operate in the way that I need it to and want it to while I'm projecting. Just those reminders and reflections can be a session. Your strategies, same thing. My strategies and tactics that I use, how I rest. I'm more confident because I know that I have great resting systems. When I come off of the wall, I set a timer. So quite literally setting timers and then marking down your rest period in your journal. The emotional confidence, that could be remaining composed under stress. That could be doing a drill where you put yourself into a situation where you know that you would normally feel a little bit of stress and pushing up against it and making room for yourself to not be too challenged that you fail, but it's okay to fail, but you do want to set up, if you want to build confidence, the opportunity to succeed. Maybe you do, a high ball outside or even just a top out outside that's a little bit scary, that has a hard foot that you want to trust, and focusing on down regulating, taking deep breaths, facing the fear, and then gaining more confidence on that type of move, gaining more confidence in that situation, in your ability to manage your stress, gaining a little bit more emotional confidence in yourself to regulate the arousal. Or, you could do it the other way where you try to do a couple of mantras that you practice that evoke a new emotional state, that get you psyched up or calm you down when you get too excited and maybe make mistakes or overlook things. I think a good one may be that you do a couple experiments when you go to the gym and you say a couple of mantras or you repeat some phrases while you're on the wall that build that that almost like not aggression, but that try hard. It really ignites a fire. It makes you feel strong, makes you feel really at your best, powerful, mentally, psyched out of your mind. And the physical confidence, that's, it's when you embody your trust in your movement, that's more so like doing an actual skill session, doing moves on a project that were really tough at first, that were really technical, and running them over and over and over until you feel that you have higher proficiency in those skills. Your timing. You can take a video of your dead points, and like I was mentioning before, as part of the this specific practice and being analytical and intentional about trying to stick the dead point in your practice, it's more of like a process-oriented goal of I want to hit this dead point when I'm still coming into the wall before I start coming back. That, if you log successful attempts in that's going to be a huge developer in your confidence in your physical abilities. I've put in time. That just right there, I've put in time training this. I've put in time isolating this one thing. So I'm going to be so much more confident when I encounter this in the actual real world or on a boulder, because I know I'm confident in my physical abilities. I've been repeating these moves in this style. I hope that helps, Joy. All right, Faye. I usually struggle with anxiety before driving to the crag. I know I will have such a great time climbing, and I know I will be stoked learning something new every single attempt. I'm usually starting to have fun once I arrive at the crag, but it is just the waiting time before going out is very stressful. I tried to sit down and visualize all the moves. Anything else you can recommend? Okay. So, Faye, is it that you feel, do you feel anxiety about the potential outcome of the session? Is the anxiety in your actual climbing and your movement and your performance on the wall, or is the anxiety more in the event itself, like being at the crag with everybody and things that may be coming from external factors rather than internal? Because now that I'm reading that last sentence, I'm imagining that you're nervous about the performance itself. I can actually, I'll just start answering it as if it's okay, I'm sorry. I need to self-reflect, but I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. Okay, and that's totally all right. Sometimes, honestly, Faye, I think the best thing that you could do is to maybe just talk to somebody that is, it's not, I don't want to do this publicly if you don't want to, and I don't know if this is the best venue for it, but talking to somebody, just literally anybody, it doesn't just have to be a professional. It can be, I'd be happy to talk to you about it, or a friend, or a parent, or anybody, just bouncing ideas, explaining the situation, what you feel, why you feel the things is sometimes really tough to figure out. And sometimes it can also be, something that you didn't realize that it might have been. I'm just going to go with a very basic. I'm not saying this is where it comes from, but if you're nervous about your own performance, then I think having multiple goals that you set that are not performance related can help you a lot, just to split up the anxiety. It's not like, I'm not saying that you're going to have anxiety of those things. If you do, maybe don't choose those. Maybe it should be something that's more of like a participatory goal, like focus on my drop knees, focus on the climb, be better about my rest periods. And you could also have it be like, I think that a great goal is to be more grateful about the opportunity of the day. Just be happy that I have this opportunity, that I'm going out with friends, or I get to go out by myself and have a peaceful day by myself at the crag, or that I'm in this beautiful area, this nature, that I get to experience this strong, healthy body and spend more time being grateful rather than focusing on a situation that realistically should just be fun for you and should be enjoyable and full of growth. I also think that before you go, doing a little bit of a meditation and maybe some breathing practice can just help set the ground for your thinking about the day. Maybe before you really start packing up and setting up, just that morning you start by calming yourself down in the beginning of the day, just setting the tone for the day. And if you feel like that stress is coming up, maybe you redirect the focus back to grounding, something that is a well-practiced form of meditation for yourself. Again, though, I'm just going off of we don't know what it is that's causing it, so I don't want to go too deep. All right, I'm trying. Great name. Hey, it's Brian, climber from Florida. pretty random, but basically just reaching out for an outsider's unbiased perspective. Started climbing pretty late, 28. I'm now 33. I've been stuck at V7, soft V8 for roughly 3 years now with no noticeable gains on the wall no matter how much effort I give. I've trained with Matt Foltz for a year and seen plenty of progression in terms of OTG strength and weightlifting gains, etc., etc. I even set for my local gym and have gotten wildly better at reading data due to it, but it seems like nothing I'm doing is transferring to the wall. My climbing peers are in their early to mid 20s and are all breaking into V9, V10. It's becoming a bit of a mental struggle not to compare myself to them. Basically, my question is, do you have any inputs on plateaus for an old man? Well, you're definitely not old. I can tell you right now, I have clients in their 60s that are seeing big physical improvements. So I really would not stress it at all. You can get stronger. You can get so much better late into life. So you can see your biggest breakthroughs in your 50s. Like I would just stop trying to think that you are getting towards an end, because you're not. That's just creating a delusional anxiety. Brian, what you need to do is look at what it is that, I'm sorry, that's got to be annoying that my phone's going off, is look into your systems, first off, with your training. You probably have patterns in a holistic sense that are holding you back, or you have things that are, like you said, that are increasing while other things are decreasing, whether you notice it or not. That's usually what happens when you have like a long plateau. But I'd also encourage you to start paying a little bit more attention to the things that are improving in your climbing, that are not just those things that you're mentioning. I'm sure you have a lot of qualitative things that are improving in your skills, and maybe it's just that you're not expressing them on the wall as often as you should, or you're not exploring them as much as you can. If I have any inputs on plateaus, it would be to change your systems. I'd love to work with you. This is what I do for a living, is I look at your systems, I look at what it is that you've been doing, and I identify why it is that you're plateauing, and I would love to help you start improving. But the comparing yourself to the 20-year-olds in the gym is going to exhaust you. There are always going to be people that will move at a fast pace, right? There are always people that are doing this. And guess what? When you were younger, or when you were improving, you started when you were 28, when you were improving up to V7, you were doing this. You were here in your curve. Now you're here. Those 20-year-olds, they're here. They might get here some point. They might go here. Everyone's story is dynamic. No one is here. You're not just plateaued. Okay, I don't even think you are plateaued. Your graph probably looks like this. Your focus might be locked in on one certain thing. So you need to really just start making a concerted effort, I think right now, to doing an audit and checking your systems, and then do another audit and look at the things that you're not appreciating in your climbing, because there is probably a long list of things that have improved and that you can start taking pride in, and probably squeeze a lot more out of in your climbing, and take advantage of the things that have improved that you haven't noticed and aren't using. Emily, for journaling, I think in one of your previous webinars, you talked about a daily performance tracker where you track energy, motivation, and how the body is feeling. Can you clarify the differences between energy and motivation? I feel like when I'm high energy, I'm also motivated. Or does energy cover both mental and physical energy? I might just be overthinking this. No, energy is energy level. I'll just say this, Emily. Energy is different from motivation. You can be very physically drained and mentally drained, but be extremely motivated. I've been really tired and wish, I'm just exhausted from a long day. But man, I wish I wasn't, because I want to freaking train and climb right now. I'm psyched on climbing, or I was this morning, and nothing really changed. I still love climbing. The energy is essentially that, the willingness or the ability to put forward efforts. It's not the willingness. Motivation is the willingness. your ability to put forward effort. I can run as fast as I can right now. I can really push hard. I can try hard, and I could do a million things. But that willingness, is different from the ability. Like, I want to move, run as fast as I can, but there's no way I can. There's just no shot. That's right there. That's your, or like, I want to do all these things, but I am just mentally fried. I'm going to go to sleep. I'm so tired. I hope that helps. Aiden, what is the best way to structure a training day? For example, a volume day versus projecting day, slab coordination day versus power, or maybe just focusing on weaknesses. Oh man, Aiden. That's an open-ended question. What is a... Aiden, you got to help me out a little bit. For example, a volume day. What is the best way to structure a training day? Okay, the best way to structure a day of training. There is no best way. Like, there is no best way. There is only the best way for you and your needs based on where you are in your training currently and what your priorities are and when you want to achieve your goal and where your goals really are. Like, Aiden, I'm sorry, I can't really tell you. Focusing on your weaknesses is a great way to organize a training day. If that's your objective during this cycle and you're trying to improve weaknesses and that's what you're doing today and that's what your goal depends on, if you're focusing on weaknesses is always I'll just say this, it's always a great way to structure a training day. I don't think you can go wrong doing that, but you kind of can go wrong doing that if you're working on slopers and overhangs, because that is your weakness, but your goal is a crimp line on face. So it's tough to say, man. Heck yeah, Brian, dude, I'm so psyched, man. Seriously, if you're not on the wait list, please go on the wait list, and also just send me an email. Let me know, like, if you're actually psyched. I would love to. Anyone that comes in here and writes something like that long and is this psyched, dude, I feel where you're at. I highly resonate with that. I've been doing this 18 years. I've watched a lot of kids pass me. I've coached a ton of kids to pass me, and I'd be lying if I didn't, feel sometimes like, man, I really wish I was excelling that fast. So if you reach out to me via email, I would love to maybe look at that wait list and possibly see if we can not find an opening for you sooner. My mind is blown. Gotcha, Emily. Always. Emily, you're the best, by the way, for always coming and asking the best questions. Also, do you have any go-to meditation approaches? My current approach is 5 to 10 minutes of box breathing or just focusing on my breath for 1 to 2 times per day while sitting down somewhere quiet usually. Seems to be working okay, but curious if you have any other routines you like. Yes, Emily, I have 2 that work really well for me. Now, I am an extremely high energy, moderate to severe ADHD person who has constant racing thoughts. It has been a long decade plus endeavor of trying to slow down or grant myself permission to slow down and participate. So I still have not found better routines than doing a body scan. I can only body scan though if I have alpha brain waves going, anything that's going to be like meditation music playing, stretching meditation. So I like to be doing something like wiggling my toes, moving my body, checking in, or stretching and moving. I can focus on my breath really well when I'm stretching or flowing. I love doing like dynamic stretching, slow stretching, moving everything through a range. Constant movement's good for me. And number 1 biggest is walking meditation. Walking meditations are my jam. If I walk, I can focus on anything in the body. I can isolate single thoughts. I can be so present in the moment with almost no intrusive thoughts. Those are my favorites. Okay, V3 Slayer, hysterical name. I love it. Hey, Charlie, thank you for all your hard work and golden advices. The journaling is no joke, a game changer before, during, and after a session. Seems like recall and information is able to seek in deeply. I appreciate you. Dude, appreciate you. It is ridiculous. it kind of hurts. I always have like an internal pain that more people don't journal, because if anyone that I coach that starts journaling and is able to do it for at least, usually that time is like 3 weeks, and have it stick, the graph just does this. Every single time without fail, their performance, their happiness, their fulfillment, their improvements, their success, everything ramps up dramatically. And it just doesn't stop. I mean, it's just like, why do all of the best climbers in our sport have journals? Yeah, it's all of them. If you ask them, they all have journals. So it's just, or they record data in some form, their thoughts, their numbers, all of them. And I just think like a lot of people are just missing out on the number one. It's just reflection, so do reflection tool. Aiden, I guess training is very objective, goal-oriented instead of just getting better. Yeah. P.S. I've been climbing at the power lines recently, and it's got me psyched to know that you've been on the same boulders. Oh, dude, that's so cool. Hopefully one day we can climb together. Drop your favorite, top 3 favorite boulders in the chat. Mine are Honk if you're burly, or beastly, Crossfire, aka Cyclone, and number 3. That's a toughie for me. Man, this is gonna be. Wow, now I gotta think of my 3rd favorite boulder in the power lines. Jeez. Dude, this is gonna ruffle some feathers here. It's Slabosaurus. Yeah, it's Slabosaurus, without a doubt. Definitely. I've done that boulder more than any other ones. Or the balance beam. That's such a good boulder. Both V3, by the way, for everyone listening. What are your thoughts on board climbing for finger strength instead of hangboarding? Great tool. That's what I think. I think the board and the hangboard are completely different. One is dynamic, the other one is static. One has measurability and lower crossover. One has lower measurability but higher crossover. I mean, it's climbing versus not climbing. So if you're looking for the highest loads possible in a static form, hangboarding is going to be the easiest and safest way. But that's not to say you can't do that with board. I mean, you'd be board hanging instead of board climbing. It's tough. Those are my thoughts, man. I've got a lot of thoughts. I can go on and on if you ask follow-up questions, but I do have to hop off in 2 minutes ago. Otherwise, my wife's going to get very mad. But how do I get better at board climbing and hangboarding? Oh, wow. Aiden and Chan, you guys are in cahoots. Guys, I don't know if I can just, again, super open-ended. How do you get better at board climbing and hangboarding? Do it more. Do it consistently. You hate that answer. I know you do. But I'm trying to drive a point. And I'm gonna leave it at that. You do it in focus sessions, and you show up, and you do it at the right dose with the right focus, and you target your weaknesses and your strengths, and you do it consistently, and you do it with low risk, and that's it. I don't have anything else. Paul Bunyan, dude, that's oh man, I can't believe I didn't say that. That's my number 3. No, that's my number 2. Yeah. Gorilla Monsoon, hell yeah, Cataphor, let's go. Dude, great list. Yeah, we gotta climb together. All right, happy wife, happy I will. Guys, thank you so much for coming. You guys are the reason I do this. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys learned something. Let me know if you guys want part 2. Peace.